Okay, now we go next for another subtopics for the introduction. After you know what is policy is all about, now we are concentrate on the nutrition policy itself. Policy is very general, but now we focus on the food and nutrition policies. So of the broad goal of food and nutrition policies is that food and nutrition policies they are developed in the purpose of or are concerned with physical as well as the economic access to food. Maknanya sesuatu polisi berkenaan food and nutrition ni ia dibangunkan atas dasar kepentingan terhadap kecapaian sesuatu makanan itu secara fizikal dan economical that is safe, number one, nutritious, affordable, wholesome and also culturally appropriate in adequate amounts and kind throughout the year that can prevent hunger and promote sustained health, function and livelihood of an entire population at all stages of life. So here you can see that the food and nutrition policies covers everything. It covers from what are the concerns of the policies, and in the case of food and nutrition, they are very concerned with whether the population can get the food economically or physically. Maknanya mereka boleh mendapat sesuatu makanan itu secara fizikalnya adalah sama ada makanan itu adalah safe, nutritious, dari segi ekonomiknya adalah sama ada makanan itu affordable or not, dan also sama ada sesuatu makanan itu adalah menyeluruh dan juga culturally appropriate, memenuhi keperluan sesuatu kaum, and also of course it must be in adequate amounts, and also the amounts is can provide for the throughout the year, and because of that it can prevent hunger and promote and also sustain health, function and livelihood of entire population. This broad goal is partly adapted from Encyclopedia of Human Nutrition 1998. Another broad goal of food and nutrition policies, it's more about addendum about the structure factors, that the goal of these policies is beyond the medical concerns. Food and nutrition policies should seek to enhance a social, economic and food industries infrastructure that allows population to make healthy decisions about foods to eat under environmentally sustainable conditions. Lebih kurang sama saja dengan the goal from the previous, yang mana untuk sesuatu polisi pemakanan, nutrition and food ni, they are beyond from the biomedical concerns. Dia more kepada untuk melihat dari segi infrastruktur sesuatu food industry itu sama ada membenarkan sesuatu polisi dalam sesuatu negara itu dapat membuat pilihan makanan yang sihat. Dan juga pilihan makanan ini juga amat penting sama ada mereka boleh dikekalkan dalam keadaan yang seimbang. These are the two goal kenapa sesuatu polisi dengan food nutrition itu dibangunkan. Okay. There are a few very famous, very well known of policies and nutrition policies, especially in low income and developing countries. Okay, and these policies they have a certain categories. Okay, number one, certain nutrition policies is developed is based on because of the direct nutrient based interventions, because there are very certain nutrient that are focused by the government that need an intervention. For example, okay, the use of nutrient supplementations. We have the guideline, or what we call as a policy, on how the intake of nutrient supplementations, on how the food structure, the food industry can claim that nutrient can be recognized, or can be um, so-called as a supplementation. And another important policies that was developed in intent for the nutrient-based intervention is food fortifications. We can see there is a lot of food fortifications that can be found in market, and actually in order for them to claim that the certain product is fortified with certain food, they have to follow the rules. And we have, for example, here, okay, we have in Malaysia, we have what we call as a law of Malaysia, and this is Act 281, which is a Food Act 1983. Okay, so this Food Act, there is a lot about what we call akta-akta makanan, yang mana pengilang-pengilang, or to those who wants to sell a food or marketing the food, they have to follow this what we call as Food Act. Okay, here is the guidelines for the food fortification micronutrients, and this guideline was published, or was developed in conjunction WHO, the World Health Organizations, as well as what we know very well is a FAO, or Food and Agricultural Organization of the United States. So they come out with the guidelines of food fortifications on micronutrients, okay, especially vitamin D, iron, folic acid, and etc. Another policies that are very famous, okay, among the low income and developing countries is commercial foods, including labeling. If they want to have a food labeling, also they have a certain policies that they need to comply, and also lastly the food aid. Okay. Another focus for the nutrition policies in low income and developing countries is in order for the policies to develop in order to educate or to guide a high risk group behavior. For example, these are the model of WHO, FO, and UNICEF. Salah satu, as I mentioned in the previous video, that another very famous policies is breastfeeding policies. Okay, the breastfeeding policies, not only in Malaysia but worldwide. Okay, they have a very what we call definitions, is very precise definitions on what is the meaning of exclusive breastfeeding, and also what is the dietary guideline for the health. And not that's another policy, but the exclusive breastfeeding is when the mother have to breastfeed the baby from birth until 6 months each, and they can continue until 2 years old, and the children or the baby can only start weaning, or can start have the complementary feeding by the age of 6 months and above. So we have this policy kebangsaan, and after this kita akan tengoklah in details what are the informations that we have inside the policies of this breastfeeding. Another policies, okay, tadi because we want to tackle about a certain nutrient deficiencies, and then we focus about a certain group of people that needs policies in terms of nutrition policies. Another policies that was developed by the low income developing countries is order to tackle about the agricultural and trade. Okay. These agriculture and trade policies is developed in order to ensure that in Malaysia we have availability of food, and we have a power to access to nutritious foods. Kita nak tengok kawalan bagaimana bila ada polisi tu, kita nak kawal apa makanan yang boleh diimport, apa makanan yang boleh dieksport dan sebagainya. And towards the end of this class, kita akan focus on what we call as dasar agro makanan negara, yang mana there are certain stage that we are going to look at after this. Another major requirements problem that require policy attention. Maknanya kalau satu policy tu ingin dibuat, these are the major nutrition problems is very common. Okay, number one, the policy must be developed for those who have to tackle a problem of stunting and wasting. Okay, when we talk about stunting and wasting, it means that they have a food insecurity among the populations. What is food security? We will look at after this. Another one here, we can see what happened to this baby. Okay, this baby, we can see that this have the baby or the mother, okay, have a macronutrient deficiencies where they have a they have lack of folic acid during pregnant. So what happened is that this baby have what we call a spina bifida. So this policy is also very important to be developed in order to tackle micronutrient deficiencies among the populations. And also just now kita dah cakap pasal obesity. Okay, another policy is very important in order to tackle obesity, as we know that Malaysia is number one in Southeast Asia in terms of the prevalence of obesity. Dan kita akan lihat lepas ni what we call as a MPAM, National Policy something nutrition Malaysia, in order to tackle the problem of obesity in Malaysia. And this one is also another important things why we require a policy in order to tackle what we call as a food insecurity. Okay, this answer micronutrients, obesity, and also food insecurity. There are certain reasons for policies to control and prevent undernutrition. This is very important for the policies is in order to reduce a burden of infection. If there is a undernutrition for certain populations, okay, that population is very vulnerable or high risk to get another infection. And we can see that there is a lot among the low income countries. Number two, why the reasons for policies to prevent nutrition is in order we want to control or we want to what we call as lower the excess of mortality. Kita nak kurangkan kadar kematian bagi sesuatu populasi tersebut. Another one is the reasons is because we want to enable to increase the child activity. If the child is a very undernourished, for example, they have a very stunting and wasting, so it is a very limited for them to do a physical activity. Of course, it's very important for the improved development, and also it's very important for the policy maker to control and prevent the undernutrition in order to allow the students or to allow the children to have a very good in terms of school performance. There are a lot of scientific studies have shown that when they have a very healthy diet, what we call as a very makanan yang seimbang, it's a balanced diet. Many studies have found that actually it can contribute or it gives an effect to improve the school performance of the school children. These are all the root causes of undernutrition. We know that why there is undernutrition. It's because of the poverty. When they have poverty, then there is a undernutrition. Deprivation, social inequality, the lack of education, and the population growth. Towards the class, nanti kita akan tengok daripada berapa program daripada case study. We are going to have a lot of discussion on how certain countries, not only Malaysia, but worldwide, how they tackle the poverty, deprivation, the social inequality, lack of education, population growth by developing what we call a policy in their country. Kita akan tengok benda-benda ni. Okay, so dari segi micronutrient deficiencies, of course, when there is a macronutrient deficiencies, so the policy must be developed in order to target the hidden hunger. Okay, this is all kind of hunger that sometimes we cannot define easily, because sometimes it's quite difficult. For example, if the populations have vitamin A deficiencies, they have iron, iodine, zinc, and etc. It has been found that these micronutrient deficiencies actually affect approximately 2 billion of people from this kind of a problem. And what is the effects? Is that of course it can give an effect on terms of the poor growth, increase the morbidity, intellectual impairment, as well as increase the mortality rate. And how to prevent this problem? Then there must be a policy. Policy of what? A policy of supplements, a policy of fortifications, and the policy of diet change. Itu yang kita dah bincang dekat atas tadi. Another thing is tadi kita dah tengok dah for the undernutrition, we have to look at the micro deficiencies and other problems that the policy must be taken seriously in terms of the obesity. As we know that obesity is a major public health problems, and also this is kind of a policy target. Okay, setakat ni lah in a lot of countries. When we talk about policy, it's quite difficult for them to achieve the KPI or achieve the targets to decrease the prevalence of obesity. So kalau kita tengok lepas ni kita akan tengok a few policies, okay, including in Malaysia, where we don't target, okay, kita tak target pun untuk kurangkan kadar obesity, but what we target is to maintain the prevalence. Okay, maintain prevalence also is actually a good achievement for certain countries if they can maintain the prevalence of obesity. And of course, this is the trends in Malaysia. You can see here that the statistics show that in 2003, 4.4 million of Malaysians are obese, and out of 4.4 million, almost half million of the children is obese. And according to the research done, I think this is a NHMS, or what we call as National Health Mobility Survey, they found that 10% of the children under 18 years old are overweight, and 6% of the children below than 8 years old have obesity. The health consequences, there's a lot of health consequences, but of course here I can show you the common one. Okay, the health consequences of obesity is CVD, cardiovascular disease, and here we can see